Thank you for tuning in to the Ultimate Coach podcast, a companion to the transformative book, The Ultimate Coach, written by Amy Hardison and Alan D. Thompson. Each conversation is designed to be a powerful wake-up call, reminding us of what's possible for you and your life. So if you're on a journey to expand your state of being, this podcast is for you.
What happens when a young athlete from a tiny New Mexico ranching town follows his curiosity and calling into the heart of professional baseball? In this episode, I sit down with Ken Crenshaw, Director of Sports Medicine and Performance for Arizona Diamondbacks, whose journey from rural roots to the top of Major League Baseball is a story of grit, growth, and grace. Ken is a high-performance leader who brings a grounded, heart-centered approach to culture, leadership, and transformation to everything he creates. It is such a joy to have a conversation with him, and I am so happy and excited to have you here with me, Ken. Welcome to the Ultimate Coach podcast.
Thank you, Ipek. That was quite the introduction there. I'm so happy to be here with you, and I'm just excited to be able to share with our listeners.
Yes, thank you. So the first thing I'd like to ask you is how growing up on a cattle ranch in New Mexico shaped who you became. What lessons from that chapter still guide you today?
Yeah, one great question. I grew up in a really small town in New Mexico, less than 800 people in what we would call town. But we had a cattle ranch that was probably 10 miles outside of town. And I think if I really think back, it taught me so many lessons. And it also created what I would consider as my superpower, which is a sixth sense. It's kind of like being around somebody or with somebody and really feeling what they're about. It's almost become comical because I'll be with people and they're like, how do you know that? And I'm like, I don't know. It just comes from me. And I think it's from growing up on the ranch where, we were around cows and horses and dogs and snakes and all these things that didn't speak the human language, but they had their own vibration or their own sense. And you had to be aware of that because, potentially get hurt or whatnot. So I think it created an awareness in me, for starters, that it's really special because I think about that even in my kids today. I'm like, wow, they didn't have any of the upbringing that I had, and how it created things for me that I use today to help people is so powerful. And I think the other things, my mom and dad were, just middle-class people, and they taught us the values of hard work. And, like on the ranch, there's no days off. It's just, you take care of the animals all the time. They don't take vacations or anything like that. So, that was probably the most powerful things I think I learned just growing up in that life, and, many others around the schooling and the people that I grew up with too.
So can we say like your sixth sense grew throughout your life at the ranch, and also you learned this about discipline, about being there, being present? So beautiful. And I know you mentioned you had a powerful connection with your high school coach. And that connection you mentioned, it changed your life. Can you tell us, to our audience, about him and what shifted for you?
Yeah, I love talking about him because he's still alive. His name's Ron Becker, and, he changed my life. And not only did he change my life, but all of the people that I get to be with now, he changes their life through me. It's so powerful to really be the intermediary of how it's played out. But yeah, I grew up in a really, country family, but a very athletic family too. My dad played, we grew up in the same hometown. He ended up playing football in New Mexico State and then went on to play for the Philadelphia Eagles. So in our small town, he was like a superhero because of what he did. And so naturally I was following his footsteps, and I got a lot of questions of, are you going to be as good as your dad? And I think, most of the listeners here would really get that we probably start forming this, am I good enough or am I not enough mindset? And then I think we create these characters or these ways of overcoming our own beliefs. And mine, I think, I was a freshman in high school, and we had this new basketball coach, come into this town. His name was Ron Becker, and he had played at the University of New Mexico, and he had a really good track record of being a basketball coach and a basketball player. And I still remember it like it's yesterday, and bear with me if I get choked up here because it always brings a really strong emotional, vibration to me where I'm like, wow, that just, what he did for me in that moment wasn't really what I think I wanted, but it was so what I needed. And it was after a practice. I was a freshman, so they were determining who was going to be on the team for a tournament that weekend. And he decided not to put me on the team. And so he came up after practice and told everybody who was on the team, who wasn't. So I was really like mad, and I can only imagine how I looked at that age and just my body language and all of the things that I was probably portraying. So we had practice the next day, and he pulled me over after practice and he said, I want to tell you something. He said, you have more talent than any kid out here. And he said, you'll never be as good as you should be until you learn how to work hard. And I want to ask you a question. Do you know the reason why you're not on the team? And I was just like, I don't know if I said anything, but I'm sure I shrugged my shoulders and gave a very bad feeling out of that. And he said, I really thought that you would show up today and mope around like you did the whole practice. So I really saw, that was what was going to happen. And then it happened. And he just said, you'll never achieve what you want with that kind of attitude or that kind of process. And he just walked off and left me right there in this stunned position. And I was so pissed, mad. I had so many emotions and feelings going through me. And I know one of them was, I'm going to prove him wrong, is what I had in me. But from that day forward, I showed up with a totally different mindset, a totally different process. And the part that really is dear to my heart is that he served me every day going forward. And this gives me chills thinking about it because he loved me and he showed me the greatness that I had in me that I couldn't see in myself. So sorry, every time I do this, I always get choked up. And I love it because it's so primal to feel what I felt in that moment. And it was the greatest gift that anyone's ever given me because, what I do now is I coach people and I coach teams and I coach leadership and communication. And I think leadership to me, he gave me my purpose and he gave me leadership all in that one conversation. And what I see leadership as, there was somebody that saw the greatness in you that you couldn't even see in yourself. He saw it in me. So now what I do is I see the greatness in people and help them see it where they can't even see it. And it was all because of that moment. And then he really supported me after that. And I started coaching with him later on. And it was so powerful because when I started coaching with him, his purpose was always to change kids' lives through basketball. It wasn't to coach basketball, it's to change lives through basketball. And I remember the very first practice that I was a coach with him. He goes, hey, Ken, you know what our goal today is? And I'm like, no, what, coach? And I'm this really excited young guy just trying to understand coaching. And he said, our job is to make sure that 2 of these kids achieve more than they believed they could. And I was like kind of miffed at the moment, like, only 2 of them? And I didn't ask the question, but I had that in my mind. And so I didn't say anything. But then what I realized later is that he was just taking this step-by-step process, because if we changed 2 of them, it would change 3, which changed 4, which changed everybody eventually. And so it was so powerful to get that message. And then he gave me my purpose too. You know, who I love to show up now is I'm love and service from my people. I just want to love and serve them to help them get to where they want to be. But in my document, I created, I am that I help others achieve more than they believe they could through my words, my actions, and my serving of them. And it was so directly related to that moment that he gave me what I needed, maybe not what I wanted, but what I needed. And then as I started to coach with him, I figured out, wow, it took me a lot of years to figure out that's my purpose, is that I am to help others achieve more than they believed they could. So it was, all of this stuff to come together. It took a while, but man, it's been so powerful. And that's why I just love the journey that I'm on now.
This is kind of story about the ripple effects. Like, if you would ask me to summarize it with one word, that would be, or a couple of words would be ripple effect.
Yeah.
What he did for you and you continue doing for others. So powerful.
Ipek, there's a book called The Butterfly Effect. I think you probably heard of. Yeah.
I have it. I have it right here.
So I think Steve Hardison might have been the first one that I actually heard about it from. And I read it and it was so powerful. And the first person I sent it to was Coach Becker.
Oh.
Yeah. And when he got it, I heard, I wasn't there, but his wife told me he cried. And I said, that's who you are for so many people. But it's through me that, or not just me, but all of the people that he affected, and I just wanted to know how he was the butterfly for me and many others.
And I wonder for how many you are that butterfly today. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
I read a couple of articles about you, and while reading one, I came across a statement by Tori Lovulo, who said, Ken is a connector of people. He is a friend to all of us, and he's a culture creator and a culture driver. What does it mean to you to be described this way? And how do you intentionally cultivate that kind of presence and impact within a team, within the people you work with?
Yeah. Well, it obviously means the world to me when, somebody in his position, he's the head coach or the manager in baseball, we call it, of our team. And I've spent a lot of hours with him and coaching him, if you will, and just walking through a lot of what I've learned from, some amazing people along the way, and a lot of them in the community here. But just, I really think about who I'm being for him. Like, who can I be for him that helps him be the best he can be, that affects, our team and our organization and our culture. So that's kind of how it started. I think he was probably very curious, as always, about our sports medicine performance team, which is the 35 people that I directly oversee. He was very curious about it. It's like, wow, how do you continue to produce really good people like we are? Because we've got about 25 to 30 people running other teams now. So most of the people in baseball, if you ask, they came from the Arizona Diamondbacks. And so I just knew that what we had developed as a team in our sports medicine performance team was really effective in growing people and growing leaders and growing skills and, all of the things that I think it takes to do the job that we're doing at the level we're doing it. And he was curious. And so we had a really rough year, and we sat down and we talked through culture. And I'm like, Tori, I hear you talk about culture, but I really don't know what it is, what exactly you mean. And I think you need to be a little more clear about what it is. And so I had my little notepad out, and I said, what words mean what to you? What words are your biggest values? And he said, love, trust, effort, and commitment are 4 really big things for him. And I was like, wow, I really connect with love for sure. And he's such a loving person, and he's a great communicator and connector. And so when we took those words and we started like kind of defining them, and then we created a few more that went around our whole culture concept. And then I told him, I said, look, I've been through 4 or 5 different regimes here with the Diamondbacks, and they all come in the first year and they develop their quote culture and they work it. And then by year 2, they back off. And by year 3, it starts to go downhill. And then we get a new group. And I said, I don't want to go through any more groups. I've been through enough. And I really love the people that I work with and the team that I work with. And so I really tried to help him, not just me, but a couple other of our mental performance guys. We sat down and we talked about how do we define these and how do we, create a standard that we all live up to and that we're all being, that's the part that I think I was for Tori, I was being something that I knew worked, which is a developer of the culture and a great teammate and a leader of my quote department. And he wanted to extend that out in the whole organization. And so that's kind of how we did it. And I think that's why the words that he actually said in the article you read came out that way. And it was more of who I was being for him. And I've simplified it down now that I'm just going to be love and service for him. And how do I help him, see the greatness in himself that he can't see because of his own limitations. And we all know we have limitations. I think it's just opening our eyes to it.
Absolutely. One thing I really like about you, Ken, is you're very humorous. You made me laugh multiple times when we first had a call. And when you described your first session with Steve Hardison as 2 hours of feeling like you were in a washing machine, it was unbelievable. I laughed out loud.
Yeah.
But what exactly was spinning around in that moment, and what emerged once the cycle was, and no pun intended?
No, well, I think everybody can somewhat relate to that. That's enjoyed Steve and been around him, and I'm been so blessed to know a person that knew Steve that introduced me to Steve, and I had read and heard about him, and I'm like, wow, I really want to meet this guy. I think he's really cool guy. And this guy named Steve Gilbert, who's a writer for MLB publications, and he knew Steve from previous years. And he called me out of the blue and said, hey, can you meet me at Steve's house in 30 minutes? And I'm like, to get a chance to meet Steve Hardison, I'm in. I jumped in my car and drove straight to his house, met him out front. And it was Mike Costas and his son were there for a session with Steve. So I spent about 5 minutes with Steve. That was it. Hey, how you doing? My name's Ken. I'm worked with the Diamondbacks, And that was kind of it. But I was like, wow, I really felt the energy and that almost sixth sense that I feel like is my superpower in him. And I'd heard that before. And he actually made a request if I could take Mike and his son over to Salt River Field, which is our spring training complex, and show him around. Mike's son was interested in becoming, I think, a broadcaster. And that's how this whole thing kind of started. And so anyway, fast forward, took him around, and the next day, a guy named Devin Bandison called me. And I think most people probably know who he is. He runs a thing called Game Changer. Incredible guy. He calls me out of the blue and he says, hey, my coach, Steve Hardison, said to give you a call. And he says, when he says to call somebody, I just call him. I don't ask any questions. So me and Devin are kind of feeling each other out. I'm like, okay, well, who are you? What do you do? And we're both basketball guys. It's kind of crazy. Like Devin, played college basketball. And so we just start talking basketball. And I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. And I said, well, what do you do? Or I don't even know what I asked him what he did. I think he told me he coached people. And so I actually Googled him and I'm like, wow, he runs this thing called Game Changer. Okay, hey, what's this thing, Game Changer? He's like, oh, it's a personal development course, a leadership course, a whole lot of experience is what I would call it. So I said, okay, I got to get in with this guy because I was looking for a derivative of Steve. And I made a bold ask. I went to one of the courses with Devin out in L.A. And I said, hey, would you consider doing one of these in Phoenix? And he said, yeah, if you can promise a few details. And I'm like, check mark, done. And lo and behold, at the LA Game Changer, I met Judy Thurston. She was in the room, and I didn't talk to her for the 2.5 days, but I remember she was from Phoenix. That was the only thing I remember. Fast forward, we leave. We run the first Game Changer ever held in Phoenix. It was a massive success. It was incredible. And so Devin said, hey, look, I want you to have some time with Steve. And so he kind of coordinated a session with Steve. And anyway, I roll up to Steve, and I'm a little nervous, and I'm not sure what's going down. And, we're sitting in his house to start with before we went to his office. And all I remember is we got in this washing machine that I was talking about. And I mean, Steve has some deep, complicated questions. And I think I was so thinking about what's the right answer here versus, I don't know if there is a right or wrong answer. There's just, who are you and what are you about? And next thing you know, we're running across Steve's driveway to his neighbor's house, his quote, adopted mom. And he goes, don't worry, this is my adopted mom. So I'm like, I've only met this guy one time, and he's telling me about it. I don't know that you can adopt moms, but he adopted one. And we walked right into her backyard. And I'm feeling a little uneasy because I'm like, we're in somebody's backyard. And, could they think that maybe trespassers? I had all kinds of thoughts going in my head. And Steve pointed out to me the foundation to a house that was across the canyon. And he just asked me to kind of describe it. All said, what I got out of it was like, you need to build a really good foundation under anything great that you're going to do. And so we went back to the office, and we spent a little more time. And I was just like, whoa, this is a lot. I couldn't quite comprehend it all. But in what I figured out about Steve, in typical Steve fashion, I leave. I'm still in the washing machine the whole night. I'm trying to absorb what he said, what it meant. And the next day he calls me at, I think it was like 8 o'clock or something in the morning. And he goes, hey, do you got 2 minutes? And I said, Steve, I got all day for you. And he goes, why? I just want to ask if it's okay if I talk to you while I'm walking. And I thought, wow, what a odd ask, like I'm totally into whatever, but I just loved how he got permission that it was okay to walk and talk. And we talked for about an hour and a half, and it was so powerful because he took me out of the washing machine and then he put me in the dryer. and he dragged me out, and he really made clear what it was that he saw and heard in me, and where he was trying to get me to see that maybe I wasn't forgiving myself and, the judgment that I had on things. And it was so powerful, but it took me the washing cycle and then the drying cycle. And still to this day, I pull up things, and I've had several other time sessions with Steve, but to this day, I think about, wow, something he said still clicks in. So I'm forever grateful to Steve Gilbert to introducing me, and then for Steve Hardison for opening my eyes to stuff that I couldn't even see. And, just how Coach Becker and Devin and Steve and all the other great friends and coaches that I have really shaped me to help me help others. So I'm so thankful for that. And, of course, you're one of them too, at spending some time with the ultimate experience with Judy and just getting to hear and be with everybody there. It's so powerful.
Wow, I absolutely love this story. Like washing machine, dryer. It's amazing. But I hear you. It takes some time to digest something this powerful, I would assume. One thing I would like to ask you, if you would be in a position to give some advice to someone younger, but like their formation is like similar to yours, and they want to become like someone like you, what would be your advice to them?
Yeah, what a great question. And it's one I walk through daily because we have so many people. Like we've got 6 new interns with us this week. They're from colleges and whatever. And we kind of have them in, and we've done a pretty extensive interview process and selection process. But yeah, I look at them as really like where I was when I was in college. And if I had some of the training that I've gotten in the personal development space at that time, I can only imagine where I would be now. But so what I do, even with all of my entry level people, is I really push personal development. Like, you have to learn about you. And because it reminds me of the airplane when the stewardess comes on and says, put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you help the kid beside you. And I have that mentality, is like, I have to help myself. I have to really understand myself, know where my limitations are, know how my thoughts can create these limitations, and then, bring others along with me. And then one thing that I always tell people, and it's the most powerful thing, if nobody else gets anything of what I said today, is there's more power in the team than there is in you. And I think if you could just get that, I teach that a lot now in a couple of the courses that I run, is the team is really their eyes for you, their ears for you. They will show you where you can't even see. They'll show you the blind spots, and they will, and if you really empower your team, then they will create this amazing opportunity for you to learn. And Steve said something once that everybody's my coach, I think he said. And I was like, wow, everybody that I get to be with is my coach too. Like I just met 3 of the new interns. They will become my coaches because they're going to show me maybe where my listening or my thought or whatever it is holding me up from helping them. So that's probably the best advice, is there's more power in the team than you, and that you really have to grow yourself, because that's a really important piece before you can help others.
I so agree with you in that, Ken. I always say, when it comes to bringing together powers, 1 + 1 is way more than 2. Like, you are by yourself, you can do so much, but as 2 people, you can do more than 2. As 3, you can do more than 3. So there's power in being a team, and also seeing each other's blind spots. So important. And in our earlier call, you mentioned that, and I was going to ask you that there's way more power in the team than there is in you. And you explained it yourself without me asking. Yeah. It's so great. So now we come to my signature question. As you know, there are some questions on the Ultimate Coach book, at the back cover of the book, and at the beginning, before you begin section of the book. So, out of all those questions, which one resonates with you most at this point in your life, and why?
Yeah. Without a doubt, when I read through, is who would I need to be to live the most extraordinary life I can live? And I think why is because I've realized that my journey isn't really about me. It's about others. And I have this kind of nickname that's gotten circulated around, and it's Santa Claus 365. So I want to be Santa Claus 365 days a year, meaning that I get to give out a gift to somebody to maybe show them where their own thinking is limiting them, or where maybe the system they're using isn't getting the results they want, maybe where their communication can be altered or their listening can be altered. And so when I get to give that gift out every day, it creates this extraordinary life for me, because I think most people think, well, if I'm going to give something, I should get something in return. And I've just learned to be unattached to anything back in return, but it's so powerful how many gifts that I get back on seeing somebody achieve their full potential. I think that's the gift that Coach Becker gave me back in the day, because he helped me get to some places that I would have never got to had he not had those conversations and all the time that I got to spend with him later. And so I love giving that gift, and it just creates this extraordinary life. I've got an incredible job. I love it. I love my team. I'm just in this free and easy space. So I think it's pretty unanimously easy to pick one of those, and it's that last one.
Yes, I really love that. And what I believe is when you give from your heart without being attached to the outcome, the universe, God, or whatever you believe in, that sends you back tenfold. So I find it a little unfortunate for the ones who are attached to the outcome. What I'm giving, what am I receiving in return? Because the more you are stuck with that, the more scarcity you experience in your life. When you give, the law of reciprocity works so beautifully. When you give something, you get multiplied. But it also works in the opposite way, in the negative way too. If we emit or give out negative or harsh things, we receive back the same. So that's how I believe life unfolds for each one of us.
Yeah, can I share some with you?
Absolutely.
People can see this, but
yes, simple heart.
It's one of my signature sayings in some of the coursework that I teach, which is the ultimate team building experience, I call it. And it's simple hard, though. It doesn't, when you start thinking about it, it's really simple. If I just love and serve and give, I'm going to get it back times 10. But it's so hard to do, and people don't see it that way. So I use that a lot even when it comes to building a team. There's a lot of principles and systems that we use that have been really successful, that are really simple, but they're really hard and I think because of the people's thinking. It's like, can I just almost question my beliefs for a minute and step outside of what I already believe? And now, I have a saying, just get off of being right. If I can get off of being right, then that makes a lot more possibility. But if I'm hung on being right, then there's only that one possibility. So I love to just say, get off of being right and just be there and see what's there. So yeah, that resonates a lot with me, what you said.
Thank you. So now I'm going to ask you 3 rapid fire questions. The first one is about your secret quality or experience. What is something that not too many people know about you?
I think I gave that away right out of the chute, my superpower. What do people know?
I don't know. Maybe you are a good cook, or you are good at something.
I am not a good cook. My wife's an incredible cook. I think I'm going to go with what some people know about me, but I got the most incredible, beautiful wife on the planet. Her name's Robin.
Oh, and that's so sweet.
And I think anybody that knows her, I know Judy Thurston, I know Amy Hardison, they know her, and she is really, really special. So that would be my secret. And I couldn't have achieved anything that I have if it wasn't for her love and her support and just who she is for me and keeping me really grounded and present and just, focused on loving and serving others. Because she does that. She's like my idol when I watch that, how she loves and serves other people. So I think that's so powerful, that connection with her.
Thank you. And so sweet and so beautiful. And while you were speaking about your wife, and I was thinking, Amy is the same for Steve, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, the second thing I want to ask you, one thing that you can't live without, but you're not allowed to say, my wife, okay? What is something essential to your daily life? What is one thing that you can't live without?
Yeah, that's I love that question, and I've been in this spot where I've done this for 37 years, professional baseball. And, I question if I don't do this anymore, the connection with my team. Because I think as humans, we're all built upon this belonging to the tribe or to the team or the community or whatever it is. And, I've had many moments when I'm like, maybe I should retire and, do other stuff. And I really I'm not sure. So hopefully a higher power is going to come and tell me when that time is. But the connection to my team is so powerful because they give me so much energy to come to work and be able to love and serve them and help them get to where they want to get. I look at everybody on my immediate team and even the bigger organizational team as my kids. Like, how do I serve them to get to where they want to go?
Oh, I love it. And the third question is an easier one. What is your go-to movie or TV show these days?
Yeah, well, we're not big movie watchers. We watch a lot of sports. It's we've got 3 boys. They all at some nature played college baseball, and then 2 of them played in professional. One of them is still playing. So we're always constantly okay, let's see if we can watch their game or go to their games or however we can do that. But I think we found this really kind of unique spot where my youngest son, his name's Dustin, and his fiance Peyton, they'll come over on Sundays. He's off, and he just happens to be here playing in town with the Mariners. But he comes over, and then they're like, "Hey, let's watch a movie." And it's kind of out of our almost natural pattern, me and my wife. So we'll sit down and watch different movies. So I can't say there's one, but we did start watching Ted Lasso for a while, and I thought that was ultra impressive. So I love the way he coaches people and just in his own country way. So I kind of resonate with that.
Yeah, it is also relevant to your work, right?
Right.
Sports related. Well, Ken, thank you so much for bringing your whole heart, your wisdom, and your authenticity to this conversation. Your presence, stories, and commitment to love and service, I'm sure will leave a powerful imprint in anyone who listens to you, not just on me, but on everyone. It's been an absolute honor to hold space with you today, and I know our listeners will walk away feeling inspired to lead with presence, to serve with purpose, and to believe in the extraordinary potential within themselves and their teams. Thank you again for being with us.
Yeah. Well, Ipek, I want to acknowledge and thank you too for who you are, just the loving and really safe space that you bring to the screen and to the podcast. And I just love hearing your voice. And when I listen to the podcast too, it's so pleasant, and just to have this time with you today and just to feel it live is it's so joyful, and I just love the time that we spent together.
Thank you so much, Ken. I'm looking forward to be connected with you.
Absolutely.
Being connected with you. Have a lovely day.
All right, take care.
Thank you for joining us today. If there's someone you know who could benefit from this conversation, please share this episode with them. Also, check out our website, beingmovement.com. You'll find valuable resources and links to connect to an engaging and wonderfully supportive community. Together, we can inspire and support each other on the path to a greater understanding of being. Until next time, take care and be kind to yourself.